Hey, good evening, Donna Nelson. Welcome to episode 47 of Rooted in Wisdom, a daily dose of Donna. Tonight, we are talking about compassion versus empathy in the workplace or in business specifically. So, there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to share some insights on compassion versus empathy with you, because there's a lot of chatter right now, particularly since COVID, about shifting in the workplace and how leaders need to have more empathy, or why we need more empathy in the workplace, even bringing spirituality into the workplace, right? Bringing in mindfulness and spiritual techniques and um, empathy. And so what I'm challenging today is to tell you that empathy is not for the workplace. And so I know that often the word empathy and compassion, they seem to be interchangeable. But that is also the danger of the English language, right? Is that words do have meaning, and often words that are similar with similar meaning get loosely interchanged. And so I want to clarify that. And I also want to, I'm saying this because I want leaders to understand that, being a tough leader and having high expectations and having, guidelines and, you know, expectations, I guess that's what I was trying to say, does not mean that you can't be relatable and have meaningful connection with your people. And the other reason that I wanted to talk about this empathy versus compassion is because many of the places, the voices that hear me, that follow my work, that do my workshops, work in the helping space. So whether it's mental health, it's social work, it's medicine, somewhere in healthcare, whatever those fields are, we get um, identified as being empathetic. And we also live and believe we should be empathetic, right? And so the challenge with or even in the coaching space, like in my space, right? Depending on, the niche and the space that you work in. And this actually had come up recently. This is why I talk about this stuff, because they come to mind and in conversations and, in my work. And it was about, and I do get asked this quite often about how can I listen to people's problems all the time or all day, and not let it affect me. Well, there's the difference between empathy and compassion. First of all, I don't think that I'm listening to people's problems. I know people have problems. People come with me with challenges and with really difficult situations sometimes. Most of us have a significant history of difficulties and trauma and early childhoods that didn't serve our highest good. And in some ways, those things have made us stronger, but those experiences still live in us and can cause us to be dysfunctional in other areas of our life or hold us back in ways that we don't even realize until someone helps us dig into those understandings and self discoveries about ourselves. But with that, um, it could be easy for someone in the helping space, right? Or even you just listening to your coworker or a friend talking to you about their challenges, their difficulties, or their past, even something that's not even real and happening right now. And because of our own unhealed trauma, we become empathetic, and then we start relating to them and feeling their pain, feeling that experience in our own body as it is for them. And so the challenge with that for us being empathetic is that that is very energy draining. not only can it be triggering emotionally and psychologically, then it's triggering these stress hormones. And you ever walk away from one of those conversations that you were really immersed in the conversation, right? Like you took all of your energy, your emotional energy, immersed in that person's emotional energy, and you walked away like, and that's your empathy. And that will prevent you from being highly productive. It will prevent you from being creative. It will keep you stuck. And so, while in small doses, empathy is really important, right? Like when you're talking to your children or maybe your spouse or someone super important in your life where you want to have meaningful, intimate connection with someone, we have to have that empathy because it's empathy um, that allow is the emotion. And that's the one thing that I want to say is the difference between compassion and empathy. Empathy is the emotion. Emotion is energy, and it's our emotion that allows us to connect intimately with another human being. Compassion, on the other hand, is more cognitive. So in my work, even though I can really relate to someone else's situation, whether I've lived it, helped someone else through it, heard a story from, from someone else, sharing their life experience. Um, I can relate to what they're saying, but I'm not living in it. So I'm not going to have my emotions connect with their emotions in it because then I will not be able to be effective in the delivery of how I'm able to support them in their experience. So when we come from a place of compassion, right, and we're coming from our mental self, our more of our cognitive self, it's like cognitive and heart. It's not our emotional self that's being, I'll say, triggered and pulled in that matches that other person's emotions. So compassion is understanding and relating, which is cognitive, right? And it's also making the space for that person to be heard, allow them to process through and just express. So compassion is active listening, just being in silence as opposed to empathy, right? What do we do when we empathize with someone? Oh my God, me too. Oh my gosh, yes, I know how you feel, right? We're like constantly doing that feedback and the dialogue of, yes, I'm feeling it. I'm in it with you. And that can be really energy draining. So, as leaders in business, and I don't care what space you're in, whether you're deep in the trenches of empathy, of the helping business, or some technical field, it just doesn't matter. We need to have compassion in the workspace. We have to be able to relate to the experience others are having. We have to be able to solve problems from a compassionate perspective, hearing them, being creative, and helping them navigate through it, but not connecting to it emotionally ourselves. We need to stay solution focused and be able to help them. And we do that through creating space by active listening and being able to relate um, to them. So, what else did I want to say? I think that was all that I wanted to say. So, the main difference is to wrap up um, cognitive or empathy and compassion is that empathy is coming from matching emotions and compassion is more cognitive and heart centered. They're both heart centered, right? We're both are caring for and about the other person, but we're doing it in a way that is not entrenching ourself into the emotion so that we can actually be a resource for that person to be able to solve their problems without draining ourselves. So if you find yourself when someone comes to you because you're such a kind and caring person and you immediately sink into that, wow, I can really feel this. Um, do some shifts for yourself to step back. And I don't mean like physically step back, but literally, like our body has a language, and um, what our cognitive processes are, or what our embodied experiences are, show up in our body. So when I say step back, I mean like not get up and walk away from the person, but you could literally like lean back, like literally just reground yourself. Feel your tailbone squishy down in your seat, your physical body leaning back instead of leaning into them. So that it's a signal for you that I'm too in this and I need to be back a little bit to give it space so that this person can be heard. And listen, if you listen well enough, people can be heard and solve their problem at the same time on their own. Or just by us asking some simple prompts can help them see it from a different perspective and work their way through it and still have an outcome of them feeling like there was a connection and there was trust and there was meaning and care in the relationship. And this is can be done, of course, in any relationship, right? But I'm talking about the importance of not having empathy in the workplace, but rather having compassion, because it's a much more safe and productive way to be able to relate and support your team. All right. I hope that was helpful, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.